Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast, and welcome to your AEW Dynamite post-show, man. And there's a lot to talk about with what happened on Dynamite last night. Honestly, it was probably one of the worst Dynamite episodes of all time, man. This show last night was not good. It was, 100% boring in my honest opinion. Really no storyline progression. We didn't see the likes of MJF or Adam Page or Kenny Omega in the ring, for that matter. Honestly, like I said, man, it was probably one of the worst episodes of Dynamite of all time. No storyline progression, no MJF, no Adam Page. So we'll talk all about that in today's episode, man, and how I feel about last night's episode of Dynamite in today's episode, man. But let's start off tonight. We have Will Ospreay having his first match back since his neck injury. He is taking on Blake Christian. The match itself, it was a decent match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Ospreay and Blake Christian, with Ospreay hitting a Hurricane Rana. Blake hits a splash on the outside. Ospreay then hits a high boot on Blake. Ospreay then goes over the top rope, takes out Blake Christian on the outside. Ospreay then hits a springboard forearm off the barricade, followed by Ospreay hitting another springboard elbow, landing on Blake Christian for a near fall. Christian then gets up, goes to injure the neck of Ospreay. Ospreay then gets up, hits an enziguri on Blake Christian. Blake then hits a DDT on the outside, followed by Blake Christian hitting a springboard 450, landing on Ospreay for a near fall. Christian then hits a jumping knee, followed by a standing sliced bread for a near fall. Ospreay, though, gets up, hits his signature hidden blade, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Will Ospreay. After the match, Ospreay has a microphone and says that he has missed everyone. But Ospreay says the biggest difference between himself and Moxley is that he can snap someone's neck with his own hands, rather than using a weapon to snap somebody's neck. After that, Ospreay is interrupted by Jon Moxley. Ospreay then goes through the crowd. He attacks Moxley and Wheeler Yuta, but Pac comes out of nowhere. He attacks Ospreay, but Ospreay then attacks Pac. They're both separated by AEW security, so it looks like Will Ospreay has some unfinished business with the Death Riders. And speaking of the Death Riders, we have a tag team matchup. It is the Bang Bang Gang, Juice Robinson and Ace Austin, taking on the Death Riders. The match itself, I thought, was a decent match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between both teams, with the Death Riders keeping the pace of the match. Juice Robinson and Moxley both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Ace Austin hitting a Death Valley driver on Wheeler Yuta. Austin Gunn then attacks Daniel Garcia, who was ringside. Juice Robinson then hits a powerbomb on Yuta for a near fall in the middle of the ring. Austin then hits a springboard enziguri, but Moxley hits a cutter on Juice Robinson, followed by Moxley hitting his signature Death Rider in the middle of the ring, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are the Death Riders. Hats off to the Death Riders for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Darby Allin taking on Gabe Kidd in a coffin match. Now, this match actually took place in the parking lot. Darby Allin pulls up, looks like he was driving a Lincoln. He pulls up, gets out of the car, ends up beating the piss out of Gabe Kidd in the parking lot. He ends up trying to fight off Gabe Kidd, but Gabe Kidd hits a powerbomb on Darby Allin on top of the car. Darby then throws Gabe Kidd into the trunk of the car. Darby then drives off. He ends up flipping the car with Gabe Kidd in the trunk of the vehicle. After that, Darby then tries to exit the vehicle, but Gabe then falls out of the trunk of the car. Darby then puts Gabe on top of a crate and rolls him into the arena. Darby was trying to keep the pace of the match. Darby puts Gabe into a straitjacket, but Gabe then somehow sends Darby into the steel steps on the outside. Darby now is busted wide open. Darby then hits an Avalanche Code Red off the top on Gabe Kidd, followed by a Scorpion Death Drop. Gabe Kidd then kicks the referee into the ropes. Darby then falls off the top rope. Gabe then hits a power slam somehow on Darby Allin in the middle of the ring. Darby then hits Gabe Kidd with a skateboard, followed by a coffin drop. Darby then hits another coffin drop on Gabe Kidd as well. Darby then hits a dive out of the ring, sending Gabe Kidd into the coffin. The lid closes, and your winner of the match is Darby Allin. After the match, Darby says that he's going to hold down the throttle until he's either dead or AEW champion. So it looks like Darby Allin is coming after MJF's AEW World title. Some interesting stuff there from Darby Allin. And moving on from that, we have Swerve Strickland. Now again, earlier in the night we saw Kenny Omega. It looks like Kenny Omega wants to run it back with Swerve Strickland once again. So Swerve comes out to the ring. Swerve says power. Swerve talks about the match that he had with Brody at Revolution. He also says that he enjoyed beating Brody King in his hometown. Swerve says if it wasn't for the Bucks, he would have been two-time AEW champion. Swerve then says that he wants Omega's power. Swerve says he wants Omega to give up his EVP status. And Swerve says that he wants to be EVP and AEW World Champion. Now, we'll talk more about this matchup at the end of today's episode. And moving on from that, we have Mark Davis from the Don Callis family taking on Jet Speed, or Speedball, Mike Bailey. The match itself, I thought, was a good match, man. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Davis and Bailey, with Bailey keeping the pace of the match. Bailey hits a running shooting star press for a near fall, landing on Davis, followed by Bailey hitting a moonsault to the outside. Bailey hits a Liger bomb on Davis for a near fall. Bailey hits a shooting star press for a near fall as well, but both Bailey and Davis then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Bailey hitting a devastating spin kick, taking out Mark Davis. Davis then gets up, hits a release Razor's Edge on Bailey for a near fall, followed by Davis hitting an enziguri. Davis then hits a devastating pile driver on Bailey for a near fall, but Bailey gets up, hits a Hurricane Rana into a roll-up on Davis for a near fall, but Bailey then hits a moonsault into a knee drop, landing on Mark Davis, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Speedball Mike Bailey. Hats off to Mike Bailey for getting the win in this matchup. And moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. Is a no-holds-barred match. Now, originally this match was scheduled for Toni Storm to take on Marina Shafir, but earlier in the night, Renee Paquette was backstage, and she approached Luther. Luther was going crazy backstage. She opened the door and realized that Toni Storm was pretty much laid out in the middle of the floor with her head bleeding. Looks like Toni Storm was attacked by someone backstage. Now, the matchup between Mina Shirakawa, who replaced Toni Storm in this matchup, it was a decent match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Mina and Marina Shafir, with Shafir keeping the pace of the match. Mina hits Marina with a barbed wire bat. Shirakawa then hits a running knee, followed by Shirakawa hitting Marina with a chair shot. Shafir then applies a mother's milk on Mina, but the hold is broken. Marina then hits a backdrop off the apron on Mina through the table on the outside. But Mina Shirakawa ends up hitting a Storm Zero on Marina Shafir, pins for the 3. And your winner of the match is Mina Shirakawa. Hats off to Mina Shirakawa for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of AEW Dynamite. It is the Young Bucks and Jungle Boy Jack Perry teaming up to take on Roppongi Vice and Don Callis family's Okada. The match itself, I thought, was an okay match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between both teams, with the Young Bucks and Perry keeping the pace of the match. Perry hits a Hurricane Rana in the middle of the ring. Matt Jackson then hits multiple Northern suplexes on Roppongi Vice. But Roppongi Vice gets up, hits a jumping knee on the Bucks. The Bucks and Perry then apply submissions on Roppongi Vice and Okada in the middle of the ring, but the hold is broken. Rocky Romero hits a sliced bread on Jack Perry in the middle of the ring. Roppongi Vice and Okada then mock the Bucks, but the Bucks end up hitting a BTE trigger on Rocky Romero. Perry then hits a running knee, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are the Young Bucks and Jungle Boy Jack Perry. After this, Nick Jackson grabs a microphone. He talks about Revolution. Nick says that they thought they were going to win the AEW Tag Team titles. Nick says that FTR was the better team on Sunday. After that, Matt then grabs a microphone and says that he was embarrassed. Matt says that they know exactly who the hell they are. Matt says they're going to climb the ranks and get back to the AEW Tag Team titles. But after that, the Young Bucks are interrupted by none other than Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. Copeland and Cage come out to the ring, grab a microphone. Copeland says that he respects the hell out of the Young Bucks and tells the Bucks to keep their heads up. Copeland says that he can relate to the Bucks with FTR attacking family. Copeland then talks about Beth Copeland and says that she's on her way back from recovery. Copeland says that he's back for revenge with FTR. Copeland says that he wants to take the most important thing away from FTR, and that's the AEW Tag Team titles. Copeland then announces that at Dynasty, it will be, in fact, Copeland and Cage taking on FTR for the AEW Tag Team titles. Cage then grabs a microphone and says this match with FTR is personal. It also has a lot to do with money. But Cage says a match with FTR proves that they're the best tag team in their generation as well as the Bucks generations as well. After that, Copeland, Cage, and the Bucks are interrupted by none other than AEW Tag Team Champions FTR. Stokely Hathaway tries to get a word in edgewise, but the Young Bucks tell Hathaway to shut up. Bucks and Copeland and Cage then attack FTR. Copeland and Cage and the Bucks pick up the AEW Tag Team titles. The Bucks then hand over the titles, and you can see Cage and Copeland staring down at the AEW Tag Team titles. Couple things I want to talk about with you guys, man, when it pertains to AEW Dynamite before I get the hell up out of here. Number one, was this a good show? No. This honestly might be one of the worst Dynamite episodes of all time. There's no storyline projection here at all. We did not see AEW World Champion MJF. We did not see Adam Page. Kenny Omega was backstage cutting a promo on Swerve, so we did not see him in the ring. I felt like the show was all over the place. We also didn't see the likes of Brody King. We didn't see Bandito. Andrade had a backstage interview with Renee where he was talking to Don Callis. There was a lot on the show last night that really it shit the bed, man. And I want to be honest, I think this needs to be addressed as well. AEW, and I made this abundantly clear with you guys for a while, if you guys have been here, since the very beginning, since I started covering AEW. AEW, they have a certain track record. And what I mean by that is that usually 9 times out of 10, even though they are substantially long as all hell, AEW relies on their pay-per-views. That is their bread and butter, man. That is what brings them and brought them to the dance. I mean, hell, them having their first ever All-In is what helped them pretty much create AEW Dynamite. So AEW and Tony Khan, they know that at the end of the day, their bread is buttered with their pay-per-views. And the fact that they make hand over fist money, they put on the best matches they possibly can for these pay-per-views. But it is kind of ironic how every single time we come out of an AEW pay-per-view and we get to the next week's Dynamite, that Dynamite shits the bed, man. Shits the bed every goddamn time. And last night was a pure-ass example of that. Last night's episode of Dynamite was absolutely boring. It just was, man. People could say, well, what's the storyline progression that's going to come out of the pay-per-view that they just had? Bro, you can still build story because you got a pay-per-view literally in 3 weeks? Something like that? Less than a month for Dynasty? You need to start building story. You know what I mean? And then my other thing is with this show, it was all over the goddamn place last night. So I want to talk about one of the elephants in the room, Swerve Strickland. We see Swerve last night. Prince Nana brings out Swerve. But it was already announced via, I believe, Bryan Danielson or Tony Schiavone or even Excalibur for that matter, that Swerve now is the new number 1 contender for the AEW World title. Since when? What, because he beat Brody King? A guy that lost to MJF, then lost to Swerve Strickland. You're telling me that Brody King was literally right there as number 1 contender for the title after he lost to MJF? Come on, bro. I'm not trying to discredit Swerve Strickland. I'm not. I think Swerve himself was even shocked that he was a new number 1 contender for the AEW World title. But come on, man. And then on top of that shit, we're going to run it back with Swerve and Omega, which I'm not against. I'm not against the matchup between Swerve and Omega. But what I don't understand with this shit with Swerve and Omega is that we're putting on this EVP bullshit once again. You know what I mean? Like it's a world title or some shit. I mean, we already had this shit with Swerve and Ospreay teaming up to take on the Bucks, where they beat the Bucks to take away their EVP status. What is so goddamn important about this EVP status bullshit? Honestly, you're dangling that shit around like it's a world title or something, like it's supposed to mean a whole lot. It doesn't. It means jack shit. And people can say, oh, well, you know what? Swerve's going to beat Omega for the EVP status, and he's going to give Adam Page an opportunity back at the AEW World title. We don't know that shit for sure. We have no idea. We don't know. We don't know. And as far as Page is concerned, the reason why he didn't show up last night is because he's taking time off, which I assumed that was going to be the case because right now there is nothing on paper for Adam Page to do. because he lost the match against MJF, which ultimately pretty much gave him the realization that he won't be able to challenge for the AEW World title again because he lost the match against MJF at Revolution. So there's nothing for Page to fucking do right now in AEW. But as far as Swerve and Omega is concerned, bro, yeah, they can run it back for another match, but I'm sick and tired of this stipulation for the EVP status, bro. I can give a rat's ass about that. Honestly. And I feel, genuinely, honestly, if I'm being honest, and call me crazy, but I feel like AEW genuinely right now doesn't know what to do with Swerve Strickland. I know some people are like, bro, that's crazy. They're going to run it back with Kenny Omega. Okay? Let's face facts, bro. Kenny Omega really hasn't been doing a whole lot since he's came back. Let's keep it a buck. Number one. Number two, now you want to fight Kenny Omega back for the EVP status for what, bro? What? That's your stipulation for this fucking match, to run it back? Come on, man. So you're putting your number one contendership on the line against Omega, but if you beat Omega, you still keep that number one contendership, but now you become EVP as well. Come on, man. I just feel like it's lazy-ass booking, honestly. And I feel like they genuinely don't have any plans for Swerve, nor Omega. I mean, if you go back with Kenny Omega, the whole plan with Omega for a while there is that they were teasing him teaming with the Bucks because Tony Khan wanted to limit his in-ring time for Omega in the ring. And they scrapped that idea, and now Omega's on his own. Which, again, I'm not against that. But we're going to run it back between him and a Swerve for the EVP status or the new number one contendership? Come on, man. Come on. And my thing with this is, and I'm going to say this, where is Andrade in this picture? Andrade should be a top guy. He should be considered a number one contender. In my honest opinion, call me crazy, but I feel like he should be in the conversation. Andrade's been killing it, bro, since he's been back in AEW. This is a whole different Andrade. This is Andrade is a lot different than the first Andrade we got in AEW. 100%. Andrade is there. He's there to kick people's ass. He's there to win championship gold, and he's putting on banger matches. That match he had with Bandito was amazing. Amazing. He's had matches with Swerve. He's had matches with Kenny Omega. Andrade's killing it right now. So I don't know why Andrade's not in the consideration to be a new number one contender for the AEW World title. In my honest opinion. Even though, I mean, the match that he had with Bandito was an absolute banger. You know, so we had that situation with Swerve. We didn't see MJF. Adam Page is taking some time off. So we see MJF have what was it? There was like a video package or something after he had won the match at Revolution. He was backstage in LA, you know, pretty much hyping himself up. But he was not shown last night at AEW at all. He wasn't there live. So we have the Swerve situation. We have that. I also want to talk about this Darby Allin shit as well. I don't know what the plan here is with Darby. I really don't. I know Darby had made it relatively known that he wants to go after the AEW World title. But my thing is, with Darby, I don't know if he's going to be done with the War Dogs. I mean, after last night, he beat the piss out of Gabe Kidd last night. But I feel like the Dogs are not done with Darby Allin. And call me crazy, bro, but I feel like ever since Darby Allin came back, after he climbed Mount Everest and everything else, once he came back, bro, there was no vision for Darby. I mean, Darby left the company at a time where Darby was red hot. I mean, I believe Darby left the company right after Sting retired at Revolution. If I'm not mistaken. And this was a time that Darby Allin was one of the guys that everybody was talking about in the main event scene, at least in my opinion, was Darby. You know what I mean? To me, when Darby left, and again, him climbing Mount Everest was a huge accomplishment. Kudos to Darby Allin. But when they brought him back, I genuinely felt like they didn't really have a plan for Darby Allin. We're going to put him back with the Death Riders for a little while, and then we're going to bring in Gabe Kidd, have him beef with Gabe Kidd, and then we're going to bring in the likes of Clark Connors, and then eventually David Finlay from the War Dogs. And that's it. And Darby Allin's been seemingly dealing with that, as well as Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong, and dealing with the War Dogs situation. So Darby, if Darby wants to go after the AEW World title, obviously he's going to have to solidify some top wins to get him an opportunity at MJF. Right now on paper, we know that MJF most likely will be defending that title at Dynasty. The question is, against who? Is it going to be Swerve, or is it going to be Kenny Omega? Right now, a lot of people are pointing towards the direction of Swerve right now because of the heel turn that Swerve has. But the problem is with that is that you got seemingly two heels. MJF is a heel, bro. He's not a babyface. MJF is a heel. For those people out there, oh, he's a baby. No, he's not. He's a heel. He's a heel. And Swerve now is a heel. For those people out there, oh, Swerve's not a heel. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Swerve Strickland is a heel. So you could possibly book, a heel versus a heel for the AEW World title at Dynasty. There's also that as well. So it's going to be very telling to see what happens in the next couple of weeks leading into Dynasty of what's going to happen with Swerve and Kenny Omega. Darby's going to have to solidify some wins to actually get him in the conversation to challenge for the AEW World title. Not just matches with Gabe Kidd and the War Dogs, bro. It's going to take a lot more than that. Hell, I wouldn't mind seeing a match between Darby and Andrade. I think that'd be one hell of a match as well. But he's going to have to get some wins underneath his belt to be considered a number one contender for the AEW World title. I'm sorry. It's going to take a lot more than just having matches with Gabe Kidd and dealing with the War Dogs to make Darby Allin a number one contender for the AEW World title. The other thing I want to talk about, too, is Will Ospreay. Now, I'm a big fan of Ospreay. It's great to see him back in the fold of AEW. Obviously, he had a really speedy recovery. I found out that he was actually cleared to compete back in AEW back around late February. So his recovery time was incredible from this neck surgery that he had. So he made his return match last night. He faced off against Blake Christian. Was it a really good match? It was a decent match at best. I'm going to be honest. I don't see the thing with Ospreay, and call me crazy. I think Ospreay now, in his career, is in the position to have, I don't know the best way of putting this, but I feel like Ospreay is in the position now to kind of pick and choose his opponents and have a little bit more of a limited schedule, especially after the injury that he just dealt with and the fact that, I feel like the guy's earned it. I'm not sitting here saying that Ospreay is clearly on his retirement tour. I'm not saying that. This is not like Bryan Danielson's situation. But I feel like Ospreay has earned the right to pick and choose his opponents. This guy is, people can say what they want, but he is an ace for this company. I feel like Tony Khan puts a lot of faith in Will Ospreay because Will Ospreay is that guy. And I get it. He is. Ospreay is an incredible talent, and he's one of the talents in AEW that people look forward to seeing with Will Ospreay. But that matchup last night, bro, was not needed. And not only that, I would have waited until last night's Dynamite to show the return of Will Ospreay. I would not have done it at Revolution. Because you had so many returns and everything else like that or surprises with Ronda and the return of Copeland and Cage and so on and so forth. I don't think we needed Ospreay to also show up as well. Ospreay could have showed up last night and attacked Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. Now, with that being said, after the match, clearly the mission for Ospreay is to get back at Jon Moxley. I don't think that's going to happen at Dynasty, bro. I think after what happened last night with Pac attacking Ospreay, I can see a situation here where this is going to be a situation where Ospreay is going to try to take out every single member of the Death Riders, then eventually getting to Jon Moxley. And we're going to start with Ospreay taking on Pac. Then we get to Yuta. Then we get to Garcia. I think that's where we're going. I think we're going to see Ospreay versus Pac maybe at Dynasty. To be honest with you. Because they're going to build this shit up with Ospreay and the Death Riders. And rightfully so. There should be some kind of storyline here. Leading up to this match at Dynasty between Ospreay and Pac. Which should be an absolutely incredible match. But I think that's the direction that we're going right now with Ospreay. I don't think he's going directly against Jon Moxley. I think Takesha's trying to do whatever he can to get back at Moxley or Okada. This could be something too where Okada could challenge Jon Moxley. And once again, AEW brings back the unified titles. And then we get to Takesha versus Okada for the unified title. Maybe that's what they're saving Takesha for and Okada for. Where it clears up Jon Moxley. He's no longer Continental Champion because Moxley doesn't... Will Ospreay does not need to be Continental Champion going into a match at All In to face MJF as already Continental Champion. I think the Continental title is below Will Ospreay. And we book a match between MJF and Ospreay at All In. I think that's the direction that we're going. I don't know And people can say, well, what about Jon Moxley? I don't know. The thing of it is, if they don't want to run the entire, or they could, and have Ospreay go through the entire Death Rider. So at Dynasty, we can have Pac versus Will Ospreay, and then at Double or Nothing, we can have Will Ospreay versus Jon Moxley. And Moxley, at that time, doesn't have the Continental title or whatever, or doesn't put the title on the line. But I think that's the direction that we're going here with Will Ospreay. I think we're going to get Pac Ospreay at Dynasty, and then eventually we're going to get Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley at Double or Nothing in May. And after that, it's going to get Will Ospreay right into a matchup against MJF for the AEW World title around All In, to be honest with you. I know there might be a pay-per-view before then and everything else like that, but I think that's the direction that we're going here with Will Ospreay. But again, last night, I don't think that match was needed, bro, between Ospreay and Blake Christian. I just don't. They could have had Ospreay show up last night, made his return, and it would have been awesome. In a way, because no offense, the crowd last night was fucking awful. I'm sorry. That crowd, bro, was a snooze fest. I feel like half the damn audience, or if not the entire audience, was asleep in the crowd, bro. There was no crowd reactions. There was nothing. That crowd last night was awful. I'm sorry. It was awful. So, I don't know, man. To me, I just, I've been watching AEW since the very beginning. Since year one. And they've had a lot of highs and they've had a lot of lows, bro. But, to me at this point now, it's almost like, you can almost predict what's going to happen. Meaning, like I said earlier, man, they have pay-per-views, which is their bread and butter. But those pay-per-views are so fucking long, man. We're talking anywhere from 10 to 12 matches for pay-per-views. And the main card starts from 8 till damn near almost 1 o'clock in the morning. And that's not counting the buy-ins and shit that start at 7. So you're talking from 7 p.m. until about 1 o'clock in the morning. And not for nothing, at least 2 out of the 3 matches that happened at Revolution could have been on Dynamite last night. If we're being honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're adding filler matches to these pay-per-views for what? I'm a firm believer, and I've told you guys this time and time again, I'm a firm believer in quality over quantity. I'd rather have 5 quality matches than 12 matches that mean jack shit. Honestly. I think a lot of people are on the same boat. Call me crazy, but I feel like a lot of people are on the same boat, bro. We don't need that many goddamn matches for pay-per-view. Don't get me wrong. You're getting your money's worth. I'm not saying you're not. But there's some matches there on pay-per-view sometimes where I feel like it's a filler match. Match that they can take away from the pay-per-view and put it on the next week's Dynamite. You know what I mean? Do I really need to see a matchup between Darby, Roderick Strong, and Orange Cassidy against the War Dogs? No. That shit could have been booked for Dynamite last night. Honestly. Instead, we got the main event of the Young Bucks and Copeland and Cage, which I want to talk about this as well. Look, it's great to finally see Copeland and Cage back in AEW, bro. It's been a goddamn minute. These guys have been off the scene, both of them, since All Out last year. Copeland was off filming, I think, Percy Jackson's TV series or whatever the hell it was, and Copeland just basically took a vacation. We see these guys return at Revolution. Obviously, they have their sights set on FTR and the AEW Tag Team titles. Great. They need to run it back. Obviously, there is some unfinished business there between Copeland and Cage and FTR after what FTR did to Beth Copeland in the middle of the ring. So obviously, that was some shit that needed to be rectified. They needed to get their revenge on FTR. Absolutely. But then we look at the Young Bucks. Some people were even contemplating the fact that there might be a triple threat tag team matchup at Dynasty instead of just Copeland and Cage taking on FTR. I don't know. But the Young Bucks made it abundantly clear that they're willing to climb the ranks once again to become AEW Tag Team Champions because they know who the hell they are. Their father reminded them who the hell they are. I think with the Bucks, number one, it's great to see the old Bucks back. I know a lot of people are like, man, I wish they would have stayed the EVP Bucks. No. That shit was not working, bro. That shit was stale as hell. That well had run dry. And they went back to what brought them to the dance. They brought back to being the Elite Series, all this other shit, and it's just working for the Bucks. Now the Bucks are trying to do whatever they can to get back to the tag team titles. I'm going to be honest. Am I all for Copeland and Cage automatically getting AEW tag team title shots? Yes and no. No, because they've been out off the scene since September. But yes, because I understand that story is yet to be unfinished. I get it. Me personally, call me crazy, I would have done Copeland and Cage versus the Bucks to crown new number one contenders for the AEW tag team titles. And I would have done that match at Dynasty. Copeland and Cage versus the Bucks at Dynasty. It would have sold like sliced bread. Again, we're also talking about a company that one time also had the Hardy Boys in AEW, and they were trying to get the Hardy Boys to take on Copeland and Cage. Run it back with a little bit of an attitude era, if you will, from their old glory days. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, and Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy ended up going over to TNA. But again, to me, that's what I would have done. But I'm not against, again, I'm going to reiterate, I'm not against Copeland and Cage getting an automatic title shot against FTR because of the unfinished business there. Obviously, they need to run it back after what they did to Beth Copeland. Absolutely. I also believe that this might be Copeland's last little hoorah. I think Copeland's on his way out, bro. I think he's done. I think he's going to retire, and that's it. I think this is his last little hoorah. So, I don't know. Christian Cage, he might be around for a little while longer. Who the hell knows? Nobody knows what the hell Cage is up to. Nobody knows. But, last night's Dynamite episode, bro, it was lackluster. There was no, MJF. Obviously, Adam Page is taking some time off. Kenny Omega wasn't actually in the arena. Well, he was backstage, but he didn't really get face-to-face with Swerve. Swerve wants to go after Kenny Omega. He wants the EVP status. He wants the power, which I feel like that's just shitty booking, to be honest with you. That stipulation, I just feel like it's, oh, man. Will Ospreay and Blake Christian, again, great to see Will Ospreay back in the fold of AEW. Just wasn't really great to see him in a match against Blake Christian, if I'm being honest. But needless to say, it's great to see Ospreay back in AEW. But yeah, man, to me, I think last night's episode was just absolutely boring, bro. Absolutely boring. And at the end of the day, I think that's what AEW does. I think AEW puts on these decent pay-per-views. Sometimes they're bangers, sometimes they're not. And then we get the follow-up AEW Dynamite the following week later, and it's just, it's boring as all hell, man. It's boring. No sense of storyline, no sense of direction. It's lackluster. It is. Oh, we got story and Swerve and Omega. What, for the EVP status, bro? Come on, man. Come on. Honestly. You're dangling that shit around like it's a world title opportunity. Come on, man. Come on. We all know it's a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit. I genuinely feel like they don't really know what the hell to do with Swerve. I really don't. Call me crazy, but I feel like they really don't know what to do with Swerve Strickland right now. They don't. This is a company that's also still has injuries on the table. Keith Lee, out. Jay White, out. Adam Cole, out. Camille, we don't even know she's still working with the company. She's out. Britt Baker, sitting on the shelf. You know what I mean? Wardlow, out. This is still a company that's still hurting from injuries. That's hurting future storylines right now. If I'm not mistaken, they were supposed to run it back with Wardlow and Swerve after what Wardlow did to Prince Nana and all that other shit into Swerve Strickland. But, unfortunately, Wardlow, I think he tore his bicep, and now he was out for 6 to 8 months. And that was his first time back on AEW television in a long, long time. First night back, tears your bicep, see you later, back on the show for 6 to 8 months. We might use you if we need you. You know what I'm saying? It's just, come on, bro. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I really don't know. And sometimes, honestly, man, sometimes it's hard to watch AEW Dynamite because it's boring. It's absolutely boring, man. It is. I would have stayed Ospreay to return back to AEW and had him return last night and not had him at Revolution return. In a way, because not for nothing, that crowd last night was fucking awful. I'm sorry, dude. That I think that's half the reason why this show was so damn awful last night, is that audience last night was awful. I felt like the entire arena was asleep. They didn't give a shit. They didn't care. It was boring as all hell, man. And hopefully AEW can pick things up. I know we're going into Dynasty here in a couple weeks. I believe it's April 12th. So, obviously, April's going to be a busy month. We got, Dynasty. We got WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2 coming up as well in the middle of April. So, obviously, April is going to be a busy month as well. for AEW as well as WWE. So looking forward to WrestleMania, looking forward to Dynasty as well. But I got to tell you guys, man, last night's Dynamite episode was boring as all hell, man. It was probably one of the worst Dynamite episodes of all time, in my honest opinion, man. And hopefully AEW can pick up the pace here. Hopefully we get some storylines and some intrigue going into Dynasty, which is taking place in a couple weeks. But, we'll see what happens, man. But with that being said, though, this is my review of AEW's Dynamite. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.